So let me ask you this, Joe. What is your what would you like to see our country be? What would you like to see? Where would you like to see our country at as a citizen?
I would like to see a caring country. I say that meaning like, why do we have billionaires and billionaires that just keep getting billions, while we have the poorest of people? And I'm not saying people that are not working. I'm saying people that are working, and there are plenty of them out there that are working, but can't make enough to take care of their family, even on 2 salaries. Why can these companies that these people are working for not afford a little bit more pay for them, a little bit more, some more benefits, things like that? I would like to see a country that starts caring for its people instead of a dollar sign, because frankly, it's not the only thing in the world, and it's not even close to the most important thing in the world.
So what would you? Let's say if I snap my fingers, and Joe's president of the United States, what would be your agenda? What would be the things that you would be working on to get to your goal of what this country should be?
Unlike what our current president has done, but the same thing, I would raise minimum wage, but I would also cut at inflation by raising taxes on anybody that tried to raise the cost of their product. So it sounds counterintuitive, and it sounds against what everybody, especially what a libertarian goes against raising taxes. But I would raise taxes on corporations that were trying to increase the price of their product while forcing them to pay their employees more.
So you would end corporate welfare.
Yeah, that's about it.
So you would end the practice of giving large corporations tax subsidies.
Oh, definitely, and I believe in a staggered tax. I can't think of the name right now, but a staggered tax, income tax bracket, a bracket system, I guess. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
One of the stats that's upset me in the past couple of years is that ExxonMobil usually pays about 13% of their income to the federal government, 13%, and I pay about 20 to 25%. If you're self-employed, you're paying about 30%. And I think that's a little absurd.
42 cents of every one of my dollars goes to taxes.
So 42 cents, you pay 42%.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad when ExxonMobil only pays about 13%.
So how would you feel about a flat tax? 8% for everyone making less than 30,000, above 30,000, 10% all the way up.
That sounds better. It wasn't, to my mind, it wasn't a flat tax. The flat tax to me was 10% for everybody. It doesn't matter what you make.
Because 10% of a billion is still more than 10% of 50,000. Any way you cut it.
It is, but it's not. But when you look at proportions, it's not equal, or it's equal, obviously, but it's not.
Well,
it's not fair because of the price of things. A billionaire can afford way more things than a guy down here making 50,000.
But if I worked my butt off to become a millionaire, then shouldn't I be able to keep the majority of what I built?
Oh, God, I hate this argument. Dang, I hate this argument. And it always comes whining from these people that say they're going to work really hard, and I don't doubt them, they're working really hard, but our country is not the country it used to be. It does not have the American dream anymore, and people can't work their butt off and make $1 million. It doesn't happen that way anymore, okay? So that idea, I completely agree with. Yes, if I make all that money, I want to be able to have the same rights as the person that didn't work that much, and I don't want to pay more for it.
I'm not saying don't put it in terms of work, because some people work hard, but they limit themselves by their imagination. The only difference between a multimillionaire, self-made millionaire, and the guy that's working for that self-made millionaire in his office or wherever, is the fact that the self-made millionaire at some point in his life, and this goes back to all of them, even the ones taking advantage of the huge tax breaks right now, like Sam Walton, they took a chance. They boldly took a chance, and then they failed a few times, and were willing to go through that failure. So don't equate hard work with becoming wealthy, because I've worked hard. Now I want to become wealthy, and it's two different mindsets. Neither one of them is better than the other, and of course you can't take it with you. But But you're right. There's a lot of people that work very, very hard, but they limit themselves by their belief in how far they can go. And that can't be legislated. You cannot legislate success. You can't take somebody and say, and then dumb everything down to the lowest common denominator. So Joe Blow, the plumber's assistant over here, will make as much as this guy who stepped out and took a chance at failure and wasn't afraid to fail, and even failed and learned from his failures and kept driving. Because a lot of those times the people just don't want to fail. And then you've got people like yourself and like firefighters and police officers who, because of the nature of the job, they love it so much, they know that income-wise they're never going to be millionaires. But because of their driving passion, and I'm sure you work very hard as a high school teacher. I mean, I wish it was more like when my dad was a teacher, where you could take a paddle to some of these little heathens, but you can't. So you got to go in and you got to put yourself, you've got to be creative in what you're doing. And I'm sure you work very, very hard, but there's a cap on that. Does that make sense?
Like I just said earlier, money is not the important thing. It's not even close to the most important thing in the world, and that's not what I'm trying to do. My goal in life is not to be a millionaire. I don't dream of that. I don't want it. I don't care. What I do care about is people getting paid, paid enough to just live. See, when you're running a corporation, the idea is not to pay people so little or too much. It's to get that fine balance where they're able to send their kids to college, they're able to eat the type of meat that they want to eat, they're able to buy the organic food that they want to be able to buy, they want to be able to run their air conditioner at the temperature they want to run, they want to be able to own a nice enough car that they're not embarrassed to drive up to work, those kind of things. Just enough so they're happy and they're still productive. Not too much where they kind of sit back on their heels and go, well, it doesn't really matter. And not so much that they're fighting with their spouse going, oh, are we going to be able to pay this bill, or oh, God, I hope the kids don't have to go to the hospital, And that's where the problem is that our corporations run this country, and yet they don't care about the people that run the corporation.
Now, do you believe that a lot of what you're talking about would be corrected with a flat tax?
I don't think that is the poof magical answer. I think it could help because we'd have more revenue for the federal government.
That and spending.
coming from. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That and spending. The government spends way too much on crap. I mean, there's no.
The government doing entirely too much that it is not supposed to be doing. If the government would stop doing what it isn't supposed to be doing, we could repeal the 16th Amendment and fund the government the way it was intended by the Constitution.
And I agree with that. I mean, we fought a couple of wars, went through a world war, actually. Did pretty good without an income tax. And the only reason we have an income tax is prohibition. Did you know that?
I didn't know that was where it came from.
Yep, the wets and the dries. It's kind of like the liberals and the Democrats now, or the liberals and the conservatives now. Back in the turn of the centuries, it was the wets and the dries. And the dries, of course, wanted a prohibition on alcohol because it was an evil, because it was a gateway drug, because it was something that led to family violence, and they wanted to basically outlaw alcohol. So when it finally got they had all the states ratify this bill. The last hang-up they had, and the last gasp from the wets, who wanted to keep alcohol legal, was, well, you're not going to be able to fund the government then because we're going to lose all the tax revenue from the alcohol. And so what the dries came up with is they would replace the 2% tax on the bottle of alcohol, assuming every household at least bought a bottle of alcohol to drink, by taking that from their income. And it was never supposed to be more than 3%. And when they got that passed, they made alcohol illegal. And, of course, we know how that worked out, and we see how that's working out with marijuana today. So,
Well, we're 14 times past that 3%.
Yes, we are. And that's it's a sad day. It's a sad day.
So I would also like to point out that if you take a look at Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which gives Congress the authority, their authority to write legislation, right, what they're allowed to write legislation on, you will find that drugs are not listed.
And there are some drugs that should not be available, and as a police officer,
in my opinion, the only drugs that should not that should be controlled are ones that could affect the health of the general population, and those would be vaccines and antibiotics. Those are the only drugs that I can see are constitutional to control.
And as a police officer, I can tell you that if somebody wants to put that stuff in their body, and they're so stupid that they want to shoot themselves up with heroin or put PCP. I've seen the result of all these drugs. I'm a drug recognition expert, for Christ's sake. We don't want that DNA to propagate. We just want to let it go ahead and take care of itself there. You know what I mean? We're the only animal on Earth that takes care of its weak and stupid.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm getting a little cynical there.
And part Darwinism.
Yeah, you don't see the other antelope losing any sleep over Crazy Eyes that got cut down by the lion. You know what I'm saying? He was a nice guy, but he had a limp. You know what I'm saying? He's just got to strengthen the herd.
Well, all right. So back on this being able to make it where everybody can afford the car that won't embarrass them when they drive up to work. Okay, so a lot of people, and I think maybe it's coming from the Libertarian Party, is that tax is the answer, and I don't think tax is the only answer. I think
that's not coming from Libertarian.
The biggest part is, and you already talked about this, Ms. Paddock, is that we need to take money out of our politics, and that sounds so simple. It's just like saying net neutrality. Everybody goes, "Oh yeah, net neutrality," but it's such a glossed over term. It really doesn't mean anything at the end. And so what I mean is that our senators and our House of Representatives, they all work one year about, I want to get money for my state or money for my district, and then the next year they're like, I need to get money for my campaign. I need to get money for my campaign. And instead of worrying about that, maybe they should just use that the next couple of years worrying about us and doing what we're asking them to do, listening to our emails, talking about our emails on radio stations like now.
Well, I can tell you that that I now have objective evidence, right, that I listen and that I'm interested in opinions, and I brought it to Mike, right, because this is your email. I've seen other emails along this type of a thing. I've seen editorials. Yours is the first one I've gotten. I went, all right, let's go have the discussion. So I am all about having open discussion. I will tell you that I am not interested in being reelected at all. I'm hoping that I can go in there, do what I need to do, get the stuff done that needs to be done, and hand it off to somebody else, because I think after 6 years of me fighting an uphill battle, I'm going to be tired.
I bet.
So you are not going to see me out doing a whole lot of campaign fundraising. You won't see me doing a whole lot of fundraising right now, right? I'm very focused on what I'm doing and making a difference.
And I support that. However, I don't know how the vote's going to come. The votes are going to come to you. I just don't see it, because there are too many advertisements. They haven't even really started yet. And people, just by and far, are just too plain stupid to think critically about what they're seeing or what they're being told. They never think, I'm getting this information. Why am I getting this information? They never ask these questions, and I don't see. And that's what prompted me writing this to you, is that I just don't see you getting the votes. And it's not because I don't want you to get the votes. It's just that I'm afraid It's not going to happen.